So this week was for module. It was over module go back here real quick. Module 13. And this was basically about your copyright and how to appropriately the practices and the what we are supposed to do as teachers with this. The first question of this asks about the reviewing of the copyright and fair use websites. So after reviewing this, bear with me, I'm jumping back and forth to different sites because I read it and sometimes I forget what I have read. So I have to always kind of go back and forth just to get that information. What I found that was really kind of shocking, and I've done this before. With this website, you know how when I was younger, we would be able to use like Napster, and we would be able to download music without paying for it, which is really illegal. But during the early 2000s, we could do that because it wasn't as monitored as it is now. Since then, with this fair use doctrine that they established, you have that states that the first factor is the purpose of the copying to sport and educational use certainly meets the standard. So when you're doing this, we're supposed to give the person who makes this credit and to acknowledge them in whatever we're doing, because that's because they have their copyright and they are the ones who do this. So with this, some of the things that I found that were interesting and surprising was that copyright works that are used for another purpose or designed to appeal to a different audience are more likely to be considered fair use. As a educator, so we're supposed to copy a single chapter from a book. We're supposed to give that acknowledges an excerpt from a work that combines language, a poem, single chart, an article that's allowed as educators. Some of the things that are not allowed is making multiple copies, copy the same works for more than one semester, copy the same works more than 9 times, so on and so forth. So that was really interesting because I've seen teachers, especially where I work at, what the kids are doing in English are reading out of these different books, and so the teacher there has been making copies of each chapter for the students to read because they don't have access to it. So they're not really giving them the writer, the publisher, the acknowledgement, and just copying and using that material in their own work without giving them any credit. So I've seen that quite a bit where I work. The next question ties in with what I just stated. How a lot of teachers don't give the copyright, and they break this probably multiple times throughout the day. I think a lot of teachers just don't know how to properly give that information and acknowledge the writer, the copyright, and so they just don't know how to go about doing that. And they use that work and they'll publish it in their classroom pertaining to what they're doing with the lesson. I mean, I'm on the fence. I understand that they're trying to teach kids. I think it's important to at least do it properly, because you never know when you're going to have someone watching you. I think it's just be good to have that background. But I know a lot of schools do it, and I think a lot of them don't think it's a big deal. And, you know, honestly, I don't really find it a really big deal, because, I mean, it's quite common that you see this happening. It's really hard to monitor and to prevent. I did pretty good on the quiz. I guess some of the questions that surprised me, actually, really not a lot of questions surprised me. I just wasn't really surprised with a lot of them, because I mean, like I said, I mean, things have changed since I went to school, and when technology became important. I think it's just some of these scenarios, they seem so off, but the thing is, it does happen probably every day, especially in education settings. So this is my week's module, and I hope you guys have a good Thanksgiving and have a great rest of the week, or weekend, I should say.